What's up, everybody? Welcome to MOTIV8 Unplugged. This is Corey. And this is actually really different for me because I've never had an opportunity to introduce the show. This is going to be great.
Lead.
Oh, yeah. Lead show. This is
on.
going to be amazing. So we are here with another episode. The gang is back together again. And they're not canceling us. I'm so great. And so
They have not got
we
rid
know
of us.
everybody's here, but let's kind of go ahead and introduce the Saints one more time. We got our fearless leader here, the one and only Marcus St. Julian.
What up, though?
We have the woman of God.
Oh my God.
She's amazing. We thank God. We got Patience St. Julian over here.
Hi, guys.
She's the calm voice of the show. Then we have our tech supervisor supervising himself. He's doing a great job at it. We got Gabe over here. Gabe,
I don't know about
the
that
man.
last episode.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's,
You're welcome.
that's something. So... But he looked at the camera and did it like, this is crazy. So today we have a topic that has been something that we've been talking about for a long time. And it was a thing, and we'll deal with it a little later, but getting over church hurt. And,
What's the definition of that, Corey?
okay, well, you okay? You were picking at your sweater just now. You okay?
Yeah, it's a lot of green dots. I don't know. This sweater is new to me for...
Well, guess what, Gabe? You're a champion. Hey, so no, church hurt is like, it is something that people started using years ago where they are offended or there's a mishap that happens, what you would call in church, and by that time the offense happens, and so it either causes them to divert from wherever direction they were headed in, or they tend to go to another ministry due to what they call church
Or
hurt.
leave the faith.
Yeah.
All together.
And so I guess the question is, how do you really get over church hurt? But really what we have to deal with in detail is, what is church hurt? Just besides that definition, what would be considered church hurt?
So, I mean, for me, I've seen so many different faces of church hurt and degrees of church hurt. So you always had the, I'm overlooked church hurt, the no one loves me church hurt. Dang, this is gonna ruffle some feathers. The whole concept of people talk about me and, I'm supposed to be here to get loved on and filled up and built upon, but I feel like I'm leaving out, tore down. So, the judgmental thing, I feel like that's one of the major things.
Right.
Of church hurt. Anybody else?
being judged?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yep. Uh-huh.
I think everybody defines hurt differently. What may hurt someone else may not hurt the next person. So, there's different levels and degrees to it. I think as far as being hurt by... To me, it's too general of a statement. One, because when you talk about church hurt and you leave a ministry, you penalize a whole and you overgeneralize a whole group of people. And I think, to me, everybody deals with it differently. I've never experienced it.
I think that's my thing. I've never been hurt by the church. I've been hurt by people, though.
Yes, right. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm not going to generalize it
Church
as
hurt.
church hurt.
Yeah.
That person hurt me.
It was that
so,
church that you went to at that time.
Right. Or it was the
Yeah.
person
Or
that
the-
went to
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think your issue is with the person. And I think I guess my issue is the people who want capital punishment, but they expect grace. And so my thing is, extend the grace that you expect.
But I think people try to generalize church hurt because so many churches push the concept and the theory of we're one body. So, and we also have to be responsible with how we act as believers and act as ministers and ministries, because you make the statement of we're one general body, everyone's together, we're one church, and then it's like Taco Bell. If I went to Taco Bell and I got food poisoning at Taco Bell on Del Boulevard, I ain't going to no Taco Bells. If you've had a bad experience, bad enough, you'll not want to frequent any of them. But it's kind of hard because then you got the owners of the other Taco Bells we're not like that. We don't use the same supplier. We clean our stuff.
We're different here.
It's different. But for the person who's been hurt, if you've been hurt enough, you'll say, all right, I'm over this.
I think the deepest church hurt stems from leaders. People are hurt by leaders of the church, whether you're just a leader of a ministry. You don't even have to have minister attached to your name. But if you're a leader of a ministry, a praise and worship leader, a minister of music, somebody who is in a leadership position, if you've been hurt by a person in leadership, I think that's where it cuts the deepest, where people start questioning the faith and walking away.
Yeah.
And that's where that mistrust comes in, which, you know, is valid on certain levels. I believe it is, because I do believe that there's a certain standard that leaders should uphold when dealing with people and coming to mishandling people.
But that goes back to what Corey was saying, though, of extending that same grace, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's difficult because dealing with, I guess, this whole church hurt thing, it's hard for me because I've seen it from both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've dealt with people going to a leader saying they've hurt me, and I've dealt with people coming to me as a leader saying I've been hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you know, I think it's like, and I guess this is calling me insensitive in a sense, but it's the simple fact that sometimes people can't take what they dish out.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like they'll say something or they'll do something, but the moment that it's done to them, it's like, I thought you were the church. But I thought you are the church too.
Yeah, we're all.
And so I think there's a level of expectation. And so to call it church hurt though,
I don't think it's
I think the
church
part
hurt.
that really wears me out completely is when it happens, not only do people leave the church, but like Marcus said, they leave the faith.
Yeah.
And how does somebody hurting you completely change your mind about God?
Because God didn't hurt you, the people did.
Right.
And, you know, it gets into the conversation, and this is where I'm at, and I may get called insensitive. So what? Come see me. Everything is not church hurt.
I've been waiting for you.
No, for real. Catch me outside. How about that?
Wow, boy.
Everything is not church hurt. A lot of stuff is just elementary friction and conflict.
That can
And
be
I
talked
feel like
over.
a lot of stuff that people consider church hurt. I've been hurt by the church. I've been hurt by leaders. I've been hurt by this. And I always go back, but did you talk to them?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel, whoa. Well, we're going to get that conversation.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. All right. So you're jumping. Let's go.
So I would say that there are degrees to this. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone because it's my boss. So I would say that there are degrees to what exactly is church hurt. You know, I believe, you know, in what you're saying, there is some stuff that is just, you know, basically petty. But the reason that I would say I was church hurt, it was a situation dealing where me and my friend, who are both people that played in the band of the church,
Come on, Levi.
we started making YouTube videos, right? And it was comedic YouTube videos that all the youth were into. They were fine with it. At this point in time, there had been, I don't know if it was All Def Digital or I don't know if it was somebody else that had made a parody of how black people shout.
Where are you going with this?
I did a version of how Hispanic people shout, of how Latin people shout. The people at my church saw that video. They gathered all the chair people and they took us into that office and basically told us, you're not going to play for us anymore. Basically kicking us out of the church or just sit down indefinitely. We don't want to see you. We didn't really have a say in that. The reason that they said that was because they're like, you're insulting us personally. Like you're mocking us individually. They took that personally. And I'm like, it's nothing against you. It's shedding light on what the truth is, on how we actually react. They didn't understand that, and that's fine. They didn't want to reason, and for that reason is, you know, why we got sat down or why we got kicked out, basically, and that left a super sour taste in my mouth of how they decide to lead or make decisions.
Discipline.
And I get that. And I was completely willing to take the discipline, but the degree that they took it to, that I won't get into, was just too much in my eyes.
Was it kind of like blackball? You think?
Explain blackball.
Like blackball, like did they kind of like
Almost excommunicate.
excommunicate?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Have you been back since?
no, absolutely not. Within that church, it belonged.
Yo,
good.
I was gonna say,
okay.
Go, Gabe.
It belonged to a group of churches.
Oh, so it was the denomination.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So what we did was that we would go out and play at these different churches as well, because they would either ask us to do a special or whatever, where we would play for one of the people that can actually sing and whatnot, or we would just be asked as musicians, because it's kind of thinned down in how many musicians are actually that can actually play.
I was about to say it was one of those situations where y'all were like the best band out of the
Exactly.
Trust me, I understand.
We wouldn't say we were the best, but we knew what we were doing for the most part from the people that were there at that age, especially when you're going into the Spanish Pentecostal scheme. So we were basically exiled out of all those churches.
Oh,
yeah. So
so y'all were removed from like the organization as a whole.
Exactly.
Wow,
that's a lot.
Yeah.
And how old were y'all?
Maybe 18. Okay, I was 18.
So here was my issue. I guess this is the pastor in me. My problem is there is degrees to church hurt, but there also has to be a degree to discipline.
Correct.
And I feel like as a leader, even sometimes, I haven't had my own, I haven't had children yet. And hey, glory. I haven't had children yet, but even as a parent, whatever you do, there's got to be a degree to discipline.
Yeah, it can't just always
come
be
out the gate, you just drop the hammer. Like,
right.
Where are we going from here?
Or walk with me through the sentence.
Especially when you come into discipleship.
Exactly.
What we're all called to.
But here was my issue. I wasn't even told to take down the video. It was, here's your punishment, and gradually it got bigger and bigger and bigger as it went along. It wasn't even something, we didn't continue to do videos on top of that. It was just, all right, we're going to continue to grow this punishment.
Like they didn't even give you guys a chance to fix it.
Correct.
Yeah, see, I think sometimes that can be like that can be harsh.
So how long would you say that affected you with church?
Till this day, for sure. I don't believe that I'll ever 100% fully be capable of trusting in a church like that. Of course, I mean, you never know. I would love to have that confidence in a church or confidence in the leaders of the church, but because of that, like I said, that leaves a sour taste in my mouth that automatically hinders me from growing that type of trust and relationship within the church, or even wanting to go to church or participate in a church, because I know what potential consequences can come from whatever actions I take.
Especially when it's something that you do that you're talented in, or that you have a gifting in, that can definitely completely shut you down, and then you start questioning, like, okay, should I be doing this? Like,
yeah.
And I think one of the hardest areas where that's concerned is putting humor to the church. Like,
that's opening up a can of worms. Right
that is because even with, okay, I'm not a comedian, but when we would see certain,
funny.
When we would see
everything you say make me laugh.
Okay,
oh my gosh,
buddy.
Okay.
I'm trying to win some brownie points.
You already married her.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, well, she won with that. We understand. Go ahead.
But no, like we would watch stuff, and my sisters and my brother would laugh about it, and my mom would be like, "That's mockery. I don't think it's funny."
Exactly.
And it's like, well, it was funny to me, like
Kev on stage.
Well, I think it's
Will
funny.
Johnson.
I think it's funny because it's accurate.
Yeah.
That's what makes it funny. Like,
Yeah.
like wow, like we actually really and I say it all the time. And Marcus and I have had this conversation, and I really don't like saying like the black church, but if we really break down what we do, it will scare someone who does not understand our culture.
Absolutely.
Like, it will scare, all of that, like early, like, hey, like, oh my God, like, is he okay? Like, that's scary.
Is he having a seizure?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. And especially if everybody around you is doing it, so you're like, oh, okay. Like, it's so much.
Yeah,
yep.
And so I think dealing with the whole, church hurt thing, I think majority of it is behind a lot of people that I've seen leave churches over trusted information being repeated.
That is a big one.
Now that,
yeah,
I have a problem with
that's
that.
Major.
Either it being repeated, or sometimes, and I have an issue with preachers taking private information and preaching about it over the pulpit.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like,
the week after I told you.
Yeah, and so
in
it's
your
just like
office,
all
and
of
now
it-
you're on the pulpit talking about it.
all of a sudden,
Yeah, bruh, I have a problem.
Yeah, and so for me, understanding that, now that's different because I came to you as my leader.
Yeah.
Like, there was something I saw on Facebook that said, like, your pastor don't just trust them in crisis, trust them in counsel. And so if I come to you as my leadership saying, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, you're like, okay, this is what you do. And then the next week, you're like, and we got the women in the church sleeping out on their husbands. You're going to be like, yo, dude, like I could have sworn it. Like
I told you that in confidence.
Like
That's because you're airing somebody else's dirty laundry out.
Right. And so I can understand people being hurt by that.
Yeah.
And so, like, that level of church hurt, now that's a little different because I'm like, this is supposed to be a safe place.
But do we get back to localizing the hurt? Because if we don't localize it, we're going to spread that out, like you said, to the whole institution of what is church.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, there's got to be a system or a ministry that can reach out and say, hey, let's get you through that healing process of getting past what happened, and let's point you to some places that will treat you right. And not saying that they're perfect, but they have this area down locked to where you can feel safe. Because I do want to get to that point of you will always experience church hurt. No matter what church you go to, no matter what size it is, no matter what denomination, no matter what the color, no matter who the preacher is, no matter how good the music is, wherever there are people, there is a potential for hurt.
I agree. However, I feel like there's a change as of now within this modern day that there are now more options or with people that are more understanding. But back then, there weren't really that many people. So
it's still happening today. It just depends on where you go.
It's absolutely happening today. But like I'm saying, there are more outlets of people that actually understand and are willing to take you in.
Yeah.
Back
but
then,
those are the churches built by, let's be real here, the churches that you're talking about now that are modern are the churches that are built off of people who've been hurt.
Exactly.
So a whole generation who's been hurt have created churches, and that kind of gets a little muddy in the waters because it's like we've all been hurt. Let's come together and let's create an environment to where no one can get hurt. But out of that, you get into a place of anyone can do anything, and a lot of people are skating around doing any and everything.
Yeah.
So there's kind of been like there's
a limit that there should be
discipline,
right?
So it's kind of like you get into that conversation of yes. Open environment. We're not going to judge you on who you are, but if it's sin, we're going to have a talk.
Right.
Now, off my personal preference, I can't, that's just what I prefer. If I prefer, hey, and this definitely ain't me, but hey, women can't wear makeup.
And that's what I was about to get into.
Women wear makeup?
There are a lot of churches.
It's not even that. It's the fact that you have these potential areas where people are obviously, I would say don't go past that limit between discipline and whatever, but people actually preaching love rather than saying, you know what, because you're a girl and you're wearing jeans and not a skirt, why don't you sit in the back, or we don't really want you here.
Which happens every Sunday.
I have an issue with that because that's what I grew up in. You're wearing earrings, or you're wearing jeans, or you're wearing makeup, or you have a tattoo, bro. Don't step in here. I have one now too. We all got one. It's like there's no.
No, I don't have one.
Oh well.
I still haven't been able to decide one I like.
I mean, but it's so many options.
So much landscape.
Right, exactly.
My body is a portrait.
So much room for activities. I mean,
I'm your canvas, Jesus.
Draw me forever.
Draw me close to you.
I think the issue is, but I think what you're talking about, Gabe, though, is actually preference.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is a lot of people have been hurt because we didn't operate according to leadership's preference.
Yeah.
Or denomination.
You know what I'm saying? So like, for me, like there are certain people that I've served.
Religious traditions.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have a secondary question for you, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're fine. Go ahead.
What is your take on children being forced to go to church? By children, I'm talking about like the preteen to teen, or they're not 18 yet. Because the main reason that so many Latino families, Hispanic families had those children that as soon as they hit 18, they rebel or they leave or they go to a different church that's a non-denominational or something like that, is because we've been forced to go to this religious traditional church for so long and feel pressured into so much stuff that as soon as we hit 18, the parents are like, what happened to them? They rebelled. The devil got them.
Well, see, the devil got them. See, for me, like, it was hard because my mother's thing was everybody in this house is going to church.
As for me in my house.
Correct.
But
we will serve the Lord.
The difference was we went to church, but my mother didn't force me to do anything. So I just found the love for what I do. But it wasn't, you going to church and you going to get on them drums. No, it was just like, as long as you're in here and you hear it. So I think that that whole, like, people that get, I don't want to say get grown, I really hate that phrase, but the people who, like, grow up, rather, and they begin to rebel, I think that is a common practice because they've never known freedom.
Yeah.
You know, it was hard for me because my junior prom and my senior prom, no, my junior homecoming and senior homecoming, I was at church because my father was preaching. My father didn't believe in none of that.
Yep.
Like, you ain't going to them dances. The devil is there. I'm like, he's there in that church. That's weird.
He's hearing us too.
Oh, God, wait. You know, he was like, so, you know, my dad was like, nah, because they're going to be playing R&B music. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, all of this gospel didn't just originate, like, it came, you know what I'm saying? That came from like rhythm and blues. R&B. Right, and so I think it was weird, and so I think because of what they were taught, they kind of forced their preference on us. And so that's one thing that I had a conversation with an older preacher. I said, I really realized you can't reteach me anything. You can only tell me what you believed because there was nothing to challenge what you were taught.
Yeah.
So nothing was able to challenge anything that they knew.
Yeah.
So now we have the internet,
Google.
We have everything to challenge their theories.
And we have communication.
Right.
To where back then there was no, let me go ask someone else. Because when you were younger, that was it. Now, I'm about to call somebody, text them, and hear about what's going on at their church. And they're going to tell me some crazy stuff they're doing that's dope, sounds fun. I'm going to start resenting where I am.
Even with that, another issue is there's live streaming.
Yes.
I ain't got to go to church. I can turn over, take my phone off the charger, and just watch the live stream.
Which is sad that people have to take that resort.
Spanish people don't believe in that.
Yeah, they don't believe in that. A lot of people don't believe in that. But the sad thing about it is if we get back to the root of what live streaming is in our generation, if we're talking about young adults, a lot of people have been church hurt. They want the content, but they don't want the people. So people will go to live stream online because they love hearing the message. They love the worship, but they don't want to get into a scenario again where they may get hurt. Which
I'm guilty of that.
Okay, so
I'll agree.
So, well, that's weird because now my comment is gonna be harsh. Because
go for it.
Okay, great. So my issue is so the question is, do they want to be connected but not responsible?
I don't even know if it's a responsibility.
Well, see, responsible is kind of, it's for lack of better words.
But here it goes back into, is church a scheduled time or is it a relationship? Because if it's relationship, if this is my time with the Lord, my time to get in my word, my time to have my community building time with my brothers and sisters in Christ, you're called to assemble.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now that gets back into the conversation of, I believe a lot of people have paused their growth with Christ when they had their hurt. So it was like, I was growing, hurt, stop. Carry it. Still go through the motions because I'm so used to going to church.
You're carrying.
But you really stopped growing because it was a moment of, I got a question about all of this.
I feel like that also falls under the responsibility of the church that's doing the live streaming to present the live stream as an opportunity for those that are watching to join those e-groups, to join those other ministries that can help them get together and slowly make their way into that church or something like that.
Yeah.
I think churches should have been doing that from jump, but I feel like it was just this is cool, new tech, let's do it. And it's like, you can tell most churches don't know how to live stream because the camera don't never move. Another conversation.
So in closing, how do you get over church hurt?
I think church hurt is solvable when relationship with God resumes.
Okay.
Because when you really get in your word and you start reading and understanding what it is to have a one-on-one relationship with God, you understand that the hurt is going to happen regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
There's just no way around it. Like I said, wherever humans, people, just flesh is involved, there is potential for mess. And it's like, and I always had this conversation with people who have church hurt. It's like, I'm never going to church again. I'm like, has your boss ever made you mad? Has a coworker ever made you mad?
Stop going to work.
You don't never stop going to work. Oh man, drinks at this bar are weak. They don't stop you going from another bar and trying drinks there. So it gets back into, and then you get into the real conversation of, did what you really experience, was that really hurt or was that discomfort?
Correct.
And I feel like when we answer that question, because there are real situations of hurt, because I'll be the first to say the church is not perfect.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
anyone who tries to push that rhetoric of the church being good, perfect, and always right, I'm sorry.
You're the devil.
Oh. Okay. But
That escalated quickly.
oh.
Patience, how do you get over church? Because we can't ask Gabe. He's still hurt.
You can't ask Gabe, he's still hurt.
No.
I was going to say, I think, okay, there's different levels, but as far as when you talk about church hurt and getting over it, I think we just have to remember a lot of church hurt comes from your own personal perception and what you had, expectations you already had in your mind of what it should be.
That's good.
When you have that type of thought process, that type of perception, you're bound to get disappointed and you're bound to get hurt. So forgetting that the church is full of people who all came from the world. We were all in a place that we needed Christ. If we didn't need him, we wouldn't be here either.
Right.
So in that, like Marcus said, we're still flesh. We're still human. We are not perfect. So you are going to get hurt. But just understanding and remembering that we have to forgive. The only person you're holding back by not forgiving is yourself. Because those other people that hurt you, they may not even know they hurt you to that degree if you have not talked to them. And they're continuing on with their relationship. They're continuing on with their lives, you know, and they're building their relationship with Christ. And so you are holding yourself back by living out the will and purpose of God in your life by holding on to unforgiveness. So you really have to do, and find people that you trust, you know, that can help you through the process of healing, because you have to heal in order to get to the next level.
Okay, so this is going to be a very strange question. But Gabe, what do you feel like would help you get over that moment that happened?
I would say I'm over it.
Okay.
I will never forget about it, nor the feelings I had towards it.
Understood.
But the first step is always learning to forgive others, like Patience was saying. You have to forgive them. You have to forgive that situation that you went through in order to continue to grow after that. I feel like the main thing to always remember is that the first thing that you need is a relationship with God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Your own personal relationship with God. Forget about the church, forget about the other people, forget about the situation. It's about you and God first. If your relationship with you and God leads you to that live stream, leads you to that other church that allows you to take a second chance or whatever, then that's on you. That's on the relationship that you have built. You just have to remember that he comes first. The way that you felt or the way that you feel comes secondary. If you just decide to dive into the word and continue to seek him, then that's the only way that he's going to be able to work into your heart.
Oh, no,
That's good.
The seek him.
That seek him will get you.
That little apostolic on it.
I mean, it goes back.
Seek him.
Oh my. Seek.
Yeah, it was the hands. Seek him. Okay.
I think if we allow that moment of grace, if we allow people to be able to fall, like Patience said, and to allow ourselves to be in a position to put the hand down and say, hey, let me give you the opportunity to be forgiven. The way that, if we're honest, when we first started going to church, there were some people who had to look at us and say, I can't believe they're wearing that. Or I can't believe they cussing when I talk to them. They smell like smoke, da-da-da-da. Right. Drunk coming in service. It's like we forget so soon when we get on our feet.
Such were some of us.
And it's just getting into a place of, was I hurt? Intentionally.
Right.
And then also offering that moment of grace. And this is the part of grace that I love. Offering and extending the conversation. Because like she said, they may not know they hurt you. But you extending that that olive branch, that moment of conversation, you may put a cease to someone else ever getting hurt again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because somebody may not know the way I speak is harsh. It's just the way that I've always spoke because everyone around me spoke that way.
Right.
But when you talk about, like in Gabe's situation, religious traditions, in those type of situations, it is harder because you feel like you're trying to fight a losing battle.
Well, you're fighting you're fighting the army at that point.
Exactly. So
For sure.
The ancient army.
Yes.
But that's where I think, and I love Motivate, and I feel like that's why we're here, because not saying that Gabe's not doing anything, but imagine getting a Gabe healed right after the situation and what you could have done at that time frame, and another ministry who could have poured into you. Because back then it was far and wide to find a church who was willing to accept those gifts, those talents, and to be able to know how to heal correctly and not take advantage. Because a lot of churches will see you hurting and capitalize on your hurt and manipulate you to do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
And now it's, we're in a position where, like we said, there's so many churches out now that are available who are, frequenting church hurt, or those who have been hurt, who have ministries made just for deliverance and getting over those things. But back then,
yeah, I mean, I do believe it is possible to be healed and to get over church hurt. And we're going to get out of here, but really quickly, just like last few seconds, I want to go through something. What is not considered church hurt?
Ooh,
and I will say, you being exposed for transposing is not church hurt. What is not church hurt?
You being told that your Fashion Nova dress, which is sheer, is inappropriate for the church, is not church hurt. Yeah, Mother, we see your nipples.
Yeah, you not. Thanks for joining us for Motivate Unplugged. We're gonna get you in the next episode. Well,
peace.
Bye.
Bye.